The assassin's blade was less than 3 centimeters from the hooded figure's throat when Felix Arnaud threw the scalding pot of coffee directly into the attacker's face. It was not a heroic impulse. It was not calculated bravery. Felix simply saw someone about to be murdered in the café where he had worked for 6 years, and his body moved before his brain could list the 100 reasons why interfering was suicidal. The assassin screamed, clawing at his burning face. The hooded figure stumbled backward, crashing into table 7 where the Varelian couple always ordered mint tea. Felix grabbed the nearest thing, a serving tray, and swung it like his life depended on it. Because it absolutely did. The tray connected with the assassin's skull with a satisfying crack. The attacker went down hard. Felix stood there, breathing like he had just run a marathon, still holding the tray, staring at the unconscious killer at his feet. "Did I just do that?" he asked no one in particular. The hooded figure pulled back their hood, revealing features that made Felix's knees go weak. Elongated cranium, eyes like molten gold with vertical pupils, skin that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that marked her as Lumerian nobility. Not just any nobility. Those specific patterns meant royal bloodline. "You did," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that his translator implant struggled to process. "You just saved the life of Crown Princess Lynnara of the Lumerian Sovereignty. Also, you are about to have a very interesting week." Felix looked at the unconscious assassin, at the princess, at the café where he had spent 6 years serving coffee and pretending he was content with a simple life light years from Earth. "I really should have just let you die," he said honestly. Lynnara laughed, a sound like crystal bells. "Too late for regrets now, café waiter. You are involved." Station security arrived within minutes, led by a Kreshtar enforcer whose exoskeleton glinted under the harsh lights. Felix gave his statement 3 times, each version scrutinized for inconsistencies. The princess vouched for him, but that seemed to make security more suspicious rather than less. "A human café waiter just happens to stop an assassination attempt on Lumerian royalty," the enforcer said, his translator giving his voice an aggressive edge. "Convenient." Convenient would have been literally anyone else being in that position, Felix shot back. "I served her tea. I saw a guy trying to stab her. I reacted. That is the entire story. We will verify that claim." The enforcer leaned closer. "If we discover you were part of this plot." He was not. Lynnara's voice cut through the interrogation like a knife. "He saved my life at considerable personal risk. You will treat him with respect, or you will answer to my father about why you harassed my rescuer." The enforcer backed down. Royalty trumped security protocols every time. Felix was released 4 hours later with warnings about leaving the station and instructions to remain available for further questioning. He walked back to his tiny apartment in the service district, his hands still shaking from adrenaline. He had been on Beacon Station for 6 years. 6 years of anonymity, of being just another human in a galaxy full of species that barely noticed Earth's existence. 6 years of serving coffee and keeping his head down and pretending he was not running from a past that still gave him nightmares. One moment of instinct had just destroyed that carefully constructed invisibility. His door chimed at 0300 hours. Felix opened it to find 2 Lumerian guards in formal armor standing in the corridor. "Felix Arnaud," the taller one said. "Her Highness Crown Princess Lynnara requests your presence." "Now, can I refuse?" "No. Just checking." Felix grabbed his jacket. "Lead the way." They took him to the royal quarter, a section of the station he had never accessed. Everything here was expensive, elegant, designed for beings who measured wealth in planetary systems. Felix felt profoundly out of place in his café uniform. Lynnara met him in a private reception chamber that was larger than his entire apartment. She had changed from her disguise into formal attire that made her bioluminescent patterns glow like living art. "You came," she said. "Your guards suggested refusal was not an option." They were correct. She gestured for him to sit. He did, carefully. "We need to discuss what happens next. I go back to serving coffee, and you go back to being royalty, and we never speak of this again." That would be ideal. Unfortunately, impossible. Lynnara brought up a holographic display showing news feeds from across 3 sectors. Every single one featured footage of Felix throwing coffee and wielding a tray against an armed assassin. "You are famous. The human café waiter who saved a princess. It is a very popular story." Felix stared at his own face repeated across dozens of screens. Oh no. Oh yes. The Sovereignty wants to reward you. Publicly. Officially. My father is already preparing a ceremony. I do not want a reward. I do not want publicity. I just want to go back to my quiet life. Why? Lynnara studied him with those unsettling golden eyes. Most beings would embrace fame. Use it for advantage. But you look terrified. What are you hiding, Felix Arnaud? Nothing that is any of your business, Your Highness. You saved my life. That makes everything about you my business. She leaned forward. The station ran your background. You have been here 6 years. Before that, there is nothing. No records, no history, no documentation of your existence before you appeared at Beacon Station with forged credentials and a desperate need to disappear. Her expression softened slightly. I'm not going to report you, but I need to understand who you really are. Felix weighed his options. He could lie. He had gotten good at lying over 6 years. But something about this alien princess made him want to be honest for the first time in far too long. I was a soldier, he said finally. Earth Colonial Marines. We fought in the frontier wars against pirate syndicates. My unit was sent to extract civilians from a mining colony under siege. We got there too late. The pirates had already killed everyone. He stopped, the memories still razor-sharp. Our commander ordered us to hunt down the pirates and execute them. No trial, no prisoners. Just revenge. And you refused? I participated. Felix's voice was flat. I followed orders. I helped kill 73 beings. Some were pirates. Some were probably just scared kids who made bad choices. I do not know. We did not ask questions. Lynnara said nothing, letting him continue. When it was over, I looked at what we had done and I could not justify it. Could not live with it. So I deserted. Stole credentials. Ran as far as I could. Ended up here serving coffee and trying to forget I was ever a soldier. He met her eyes. You want to know who I really am? I am a deserter and a war criminal who threw coffee at an assassin because even after everything, I still cannot watch someone die when I can stop it. You think that makes you a coward? It makes me a hypocrite. I killed people and then ran from the consequences. You killed in war under orders you now regret. Then you chose differently when given the chance. Lynnara's patterns shifted to colors Felix could not interpret. That is not hypocrisy. That is growth. Learning. Becoming better than you were. The Colonial Marines do not see it that way. If they find out where I am, I go to prison for the rest of my life. Then we will ensure they do not find out. Lynnara made a decision he could see forming in her expression. You saved my life, Felix Arnaud. I cannot give you anonymity anymore. The galaxy knows your face. But I can give you protection. Purpose. A reason for your past to become an asset rather than a liability. What are you proposing? Work for me. Not as a soldier. As an advisor. A perspective from a species that thinks differently than Lumerians. Someone who understands violence, but chooses kindness when possible. She extended a hand in a gesture she had clearly learned from studying humans. Help me navigate the political chaos that assassination attempt created. In return, I use my influence to shield you from military prosecution. Felix stared at the offered hand. You want to hire a café waiter as a royal advisor? I want to employ the being who threw scalding coffee to save a stranger. That quality is rarer than any credential. Lynnara smiled. Besides, you understand something most of my advisors never learned. That every choice to help instead of harm matters. That is valuable perspective. Felix thought about the 6 years of hiding. The loneliness of anonymity. The constant fear of discovery. Then he thought about the moment in the café when he moved without thinking because someone needed help. Maybe Lynnara was right. Maybe that moment mattered more than all the mistakes he was running from. I accept, he said, taking her hand. But I need you to understand. I am not a soldier anymore. I cannot go back to that. If you need violence, find someone else. I have soldiers for violence. I need you for wisdom. Lynnara's grip was surprisingly strong. Welcome to the most complicated employment of your life, Felix Arnaud. She was not exaggerating. Within a week, Felix found himself navigating Lumerian court politics that made military strategy look simple. The assassination attempt had been backed by a faction opposed to Lynnara's policies regarding cross-species cooperation. They saw humans and other younger species as inferior, unworthy of equal treatment. Felix's presence as her advisor became a symbol, either that cooperation was valuable or that the princess had lost her judgment. The court divided sharply. They despise me, Felix said after yet another council meeting where Lumerian nobles barely concealed their contempt. Half of them think you are making a mistake employing a human. The other half think it is an insult to their intelligence. Let them think what they want, Lynnara replied, reviewing the intelligence reports about ongoing threats. You have given me better strategic advice in a week than my formal military advisors provided in a year. Your perspective is invaluable. My perspective is coffee-based. I spent 6 years learning what people want when they are tired and stressed. That is not qualification for politics. It is exactly qualification for politics. You learn to read beings, anticipate needs, defuse tensions before they escalated. Those are critical skills. She pulled up a file. Speaking of which, we have a problem. The faction behind the assassination is planning something larger. Intelligence suggests they are recruiting mercenaries for an operation targeting civilian stations. Felix studied the data. His military training, dormant for years, activated despite his reluctance. They are planning to create an incident they can blame on cross-species cooperation. Hit a station with mixed populations, maximize casualties, then argue your policies caused the deaths. That is my assessment as well. How do we stop it? You do not. You let me stop it. Lynnara's eyes narrowed. Explain. You cannot be seen acting against your own people based on unconfirmed intelligence. It will look like paranoia or tyranny. But I am a human advisor. Expendable. If I investigate and find nothing, you had plausible deniability. If I find the plot and stop it, you had proactive security. Felix pulled up station schematics. I know how to move through places unseen. How to gather intelligence. It is what soldiers do. You said you were not a soldier anymore. I am not. But I still remember how to be one when there is no other choice. Felix met her gaze. Let me do this. Not as violence. As prevention. If you are caught, they will kill you. If I do nothing, they will kill thousands. I would rather die preventing that than live knowing I could have stopped it. Lynnara was quiet for a long moment. You understand this is exactly what you ran from? Military operations, violence, moral complexity. I ran from killing without question. This is different. This is choosing to act because it is right, not because someone ordered me. Felix smiled grimly. Maybe that distinction matters. Or maybe I am just a hypocrite who needs to feel useful again. Either way, I am doing this. Then take backup. Guards I trust. No. I work alone or not at all. Your guards are Lumerian. They will be recognized. I am just a human. Nobody pays attention to humans. He stood. Give me 3 days. If I cannot find evidence by then, we report to official channels and let them handle it. And if you do find evidence, then I stop them. Quietly. No glory, no recognition. Just get it done and disappear back into being your cafe waiter turned advisor. Lynnara studied him for a long moment before nodding. 3 days. But Felix? Come back alive. I did not save you from your past just to lose you to a suicide mission. I saved you, remember? You owe me. Which is why I need you alive to collect that debt. Felix spent 2 days infiltrating the suspected mercenary network. His military skills returned like muscle memory. How to blend in, how to gather intelligence without drawing attention, how to identify targets through behavioral patterns. He found the plot exactly where he expected. A team of 15 mercenaries preparing to assault Haven Station, a mixed-species civilian habitat. The attack was scheduled for 3 days out, timed to coincide with a cultural festival when populations would be densest. Felix could have reported to authorities. Let them handle it through official channels. But official channels took time, and the mercenaries would scatter at the first sign of investigation. He thought about the mining colony his unit had been too late to save. About the civilians who died because someone failed to act quickly enough. He could not let it happen again. The mercenary safe house was located in the industrial district. Felix approached after midnight, armed with nothing but the skills he had spent 6 years trying to forget. He did not want to kill. He wanted to stop them without bloodshed if possible. He disabled their communications first. Quietly, professionally. Then he triggered every alarm in the adjacent buildings, creating chaos that forced the mercenaries to either fight through authorities or surrender. 11 of them chose to surrender. Chose to fight. Felix engaged them in the corridors, using every non-lethal technique he knew. Disarms, pressure points, strategic positioning. He took wounds, a blade across his ribs, a plasma burn on his shoulder, but he did not kill. When it was over, all 15 mercenaries were in custody and evidence of the plot was secured. Felix stumbled out of the industrial district bleeding and exhausted but alive. Lynnara found him in the medical bay being stitched up by a Kreshtar medic who kept muttering about human pain tolerance. "You stopped them," she said. "I stopped them without killing anyone. Progress, I think." Felix winced as the medic sealed the knife wound. "Evidence is with station security. The plot is exposed. You can move against the faction now with proof." "I can. Because you risked everything to get that proof." Lynnara dismissed the medic with a gesture. When they were alone, she spoke quietly. "Why? You could have just reported your suspicions. Let authorities handle it. Instead, you nearly died stopping killers yourself. Because I spent 6 years running from the person I was. The soldier who killed without questioning. Tonight, I gotta be a different person. The soldier who stops killing when there is another choice." Felix looked at his bandaged hands. "Maybe that does not erase what I did, but it means I can live with myself again. You are not running anymore. No. You made that impossible when you offered me purpose instead of just protection." He smiled despite the pain. "Turns out being your advisor is way more dangerous than serving coffee. It will get worse. The faction will retaliate. You will be a target. I have been a target for 6 years. At least now I am a target doing something that matters." Lynnara's patterns shifted to colors that Felix had learned meant deep emotion. "You saved my life in a café. Then you saved thousands more in an industrial district. You did all of it asking for nothing except the chance to be better than you were. That is not common. That is extraordinary. I am a café waiter who got lucky. You were a café waiter. Now you are the being who proved that one kind act can rewrite fate. That choosing to help a stranger can lead to saving thousands. That who you were matters less than who you choose to become." Felix thought about the moment in the café. The split second before he threw the coffee. He could have frozen. Could have let someone else intervene. Could have protected his anonymity. Instead, he acted. And that single choice had brought him here. Bloody, exhausted, but finally doing something that mattered. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we dismantle the faction, implement safeguards, and prevent this from happening again." Lynnara extended her hand again. "Together, as partners, if you still want the job knowing how complicated it really is." Felix took her hand without hesitation. "I spent 6 years serving coffee and hiding. This is better, harder, more dangerous, definitely more painful, but better, even though you will never be anonymous again, especially because of that. Anonymity was just another form of running. Time to stop running and start living." The weeks that followed transformed Felix from a curiosity into a respected figure in Lumerian politics. His insights, drawn from years of observing beings at their most vulnerable over coffee, proved invaluable in navigating the complex social dynamics of the court. The faction responsible for the assassination attempt and planned attack was dismantled. Evidence Felix provided led to arrests across 3 systems. Lynnara's position strengthened as she demonstrated both compassion in hiring a human and wisdom in using that human's unique perspective. "You are becoming famous again," Lynnara mentioned during a strategy session. "The café waiter who became a princess's advisor and stopped a terrorist plot. They are writing songs about you in the commercial district. I heard. They are terrible songs." Felix reviewed reports from newly established cross-species cooperation initiatives. "But I suppose being famous for stopping killers is better than being famous for being one. You are not a killer. You were a soldier who made difficult choices in difficult circumstances and then chose differently when you could." Lynnara leaned back in her chair. "I have been thinking about that. About how one choice in a café changed both our fates. Changed mine more than yours. You would still be a princess without me. But I would not have the perspective you brought. Would not have learned that sometimes the most valuable advisors are beings who understand failure and redemption. Would not have seen that strength is not just fighting well, but choosing not to fight when there are alternatives." Felix smiled. "You are giving me too much credit. I threw coffee and got lucky. You saved a stranger because it was right. That is not luck. That is character." Lynnara stood, her patterns glowing with determination. "I want to formalize your position. Make you official liaison for Earth-Lumerian cooperation. Give you authority to implement the policies you have been proposing. I am a deserter from the Earth Colonial Marines. That job would put me directly in contact with Earth's government. They will recognize me. Yes, they will. and you will negotiate your surrender on your terms. Community service rather than prison. Use your experience to train peacekeepers instead of soldiers. Turn your past into an asset for building peace. She met his eyes. You cannot run forever, Felix, but you can transform what you are running from into what you are running toward. Felix considered. The idea terrified him, but it was also the first thing in 6 years that felt like moving forward instead of hiding. If I do this, I need guarantees. That Earth will accept the deal. That I will not just be arrested and forgotten. You will have my full backing. The Lumerian Sovereignty will make it clear that you are under our protection and that your service to us has earned consideration. Lynnara smiled. Besides, Earth cannot afford to reject cooperation with Lemuria over one deserter, no matter how much they might want to. Politics favors pragmatism. You are asking me to trust that the galaxy is rational. I am asking you to trust that your actions have earned you allies powerful enough to protect you while you make amends. She extended her hand one more time. Stop running. Start building. Turn one kind act into a lifetime of service that matters. Felix stared at her hand, at the alien princess who had become his friend, at the choice between hiding forever or facing his past to build a better future. He took her hand. I accept, but if this goes badly, I am blaming you. If it goes badly, I will personally break you out of prison and we will both become fugitives together. It will be an adventure. That is not reassuring. It is honest, which is all I ever promise you. The negotiations with Earth took 3 months. Felix stood before military tribunals via hologram, answering for his desertion, his actions during the war, his 6 years of hiding. He expected condemnation. What he received was complicated. The colonial Marines wanted justice, but Earth's diplomatic corps wanted Lumerian cooperation more. And Lynnara made it clear that losing Felix would be seen as a personal insult to the Crown Princess. In the end, pragmatism won. Felix received a dishonorable discharge but avoided prison in exchange for 10 years of service training Earth peacekeepers in conflict de-escalation and cross-species cooperation. He would use his past to prevent others from making his mistakes. You are officially free, Lynnara told him when the agreement was finalized. No more running. No more hiding. Just building the future you want. 10 years of service to Earth followed by however long serving you. I am going to be very busy. You are going to be very useful. There is a difference. She smiled. Besides, you can do both. Train peacekeepers remotely while advising me on Earth-Lumerian relations. Multitask. You just want to keep me busy so I cannot go back to serving coffee. I want to keep you engaged because you are valuable. But yes, also to prevent coffee service. You have transcended that profession. Felix laughed. All because I threw coffee one time. All because you chose to help a stranger when you could have stayed safe in anonymity. That choice rewrote both our fates. Yours from deserter to diplomat. Mine from isolated princess to leader who learned the value of unexpected allies. Was it worth it? The complication I brought to your life? Absolutely. You taught me that the most valuable beings are often the ones we do not expect. That a cafe waiter can have more wisdom than trained advisors. That kindness is strength. Lynnara's patterns glowed warm. You changed my empire for the better by being exactly who you are. That is worth any complication. They stood together in the observation deck, watching ships arrive and depart from Beacon Station. Beings from 100 species pursuing their lives, unaware that a cafe waiter and a princess had formed an alliance that would shape interspecies relations for decades. What do we do now? Felix asked. Now we keep building. Keep learning from each other. Keep proving that cooperation across species and cultures and pasts creates something stronger than division. Lynnara looked at him with those golden eyes. Now we turn one kind act into a legacy that outlasts both of us. Felix thought about the assassination attempt in the cafe, the split-second decision to act instead of hiding. Every choice since that had led him here. He had been only a cafe waiter. Invisible, anonymous, running from a past he could not change. One kind act had rewritten his fate, given him purpose, allies, a future worth building instead of a past worth hiding from. I can do that, he said. Build something that matters. With you. For everyone. Then let us begin. Lynnara extended her hand in the gesture that had come to mean partnership between them. Together, as we have been since you threw that coffee. Felix took her hand, alien and human, different but united in purpose. He had saved a princess. She had saved him right back. And together they proved that fate is not written in the past, but chosen in every moment through the simple decision to help instead of harm, to build instead of destroy, to face forward instead of running away. He was only a cafe waiter until a single kind act rewrote his fate. Now he was something more, something better. Someone who proved that redemption is always possible when you choose it. Someone who showed the galaxy that the most powerful force is not weapons or wealth, but the simple decision to do the right thing when it costs you everything. Felix Arnaud had thrown coffee to save a stranger. And in saving her, he had finally saved himself. If you enjoyed the story, like the video and subscribe for more. Thank you.